of the entire test and trace system. The enforcement is run by a company called Serco. Has anybody heard of Serco? Yeah. The Serco company. Right, now before I tell you about Serco, this is how it works. The law changed 2 weeks ago. If you are asked to isolate for any reason, you do not need a test. You do not need symptoms. You can get a little notification on your phone saying stay at home, and you can get £1,000 fine, and if you break the rules you get up to a £10,000 fine. This is administered by Serco, okay? Who are Serco? Here we go. Bear with me, I've made some extensive notes. Go on, Lance. Right, Serco are the multinational company that employ more people than British Armed Services, 125,000 people. They've got 40 subsidiary companies across the globe. They are the largest outsourcing company in the world, and they win 70% of the contracts they bid for. They turn over £5 billion a year. Here's a short look into what they do. They cover waste disposal all over the UK, transport, half of London's traffic lights, all of Dublin's. Ontario, Canada, they issue your driving licence. In New Zealand, trains, ferries, all across the UK too. In Australia, they have a presence on every single military base. That's just in Australia. Serco are contracted to run the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Does anybody know what FEMA is? They administer and run 2 whole FEMA camps worth $600 million. 17 states they run FEMA, Immigration detention centres across the UK, Australia and New Zealand. Air traffic control across the whole world. Public transport in the West and in the Middle East is dominated by Serco. That means the ANPR cameras. That means the facial recognition cameras. They run, own and maintain all of that infrastructure. They are contracted for the DWP call centres. They're the largest operator of private prisons in the UK. Who knew it's not just the US that has private for-profit prisons? They're in the UK too, and they're run by guess who? Serco, the Serco company. They run every single state school in Bradford between 2001 and 2011. In that decade, kid me not, was that not the decade when the grooming, industrialised raping of young girls was its most prevalent in the North East? They ran all of the schools in Bradford. Political persuasions aside, that happened, and they were in charge of every school in Bradford. Along with G4S, they are the largest contractor for services for vulnerable children. They run the infrastructure of the Child Protection Services. They run the UK ballistic missile system and our entire nuclear arsenal. They run 3 UK naval bases. Serco are contracted to administer many UK hospitals. The entire NHS blood bank is run by Serco. Does anybody starting to get an idea of how huge this multinational conglomerate company is? It is the octopus, it is the snake, it is the spider at the centre of the web. Serco are contracted for our high defence Skynet, i.e. Terminator 2. Skynet satellite system, Serco run that. They also run and administer the US Patent Office. They issue every patent in the US. Serco have been involved in scandals in every one of these areas. They were fined £22 million. They run the ankle tagging for prisoners. So all the prisoners in the UK that have got an ankle tag on, that's Serco. £22 million fine for charging the government for dead prisoners. Who knows about that scandal with Nigel Farage's trial? What do you think about Nigel Farage out the window? That scandal of those immigrants that have been picked up in the Channel and been put into hotels. Guess who's doing that? Serco. They run every single immigration centre. Guess what they also run? All of the high-speed rescue boats for the Border Force. Every single one of them is issued, serviced and run by Serco. They're on commission to pick up every immigrant. They get £900 a pop to put them in their own immigration centres. And if they're full, guess where they go? In the 4-star hotels. Serco pick up the bill, and they probably double it because they give it to the government and we have to pay for it.
Wow, here we go.
Holy shit. Yeah, £900 a pop for each asylum seeker. A very infamous asylum detention centre in Yarl's Wood is run by Serco. It is infamous for sexual abuse and prostitution rings. They've lost lots of contracts for malpractice. In August, they got £108 million to run test and trace. And for the first few months, everyone was just sat around watching Netflix. They had contacted an average of 2 people each. £108 million was spent on that. So, who owns Serco? Serco is owned by CCL, the Crown Corporation Limited. It's the virus of your highness. Okay. CCL and the Privy Council have the golden share in Serco, based in Hook in the southwest. There are two other companies I'm going to expose. They're all in the southwest too. Who's heard of Kinetic with a Q? Who's driven out past Berwick, seen that big sign? Kinetic are the cyber defence and military wing of Serco. They are also owned by the Crown. They are the same institute. Serco have an $8 billion US defence contract and Kinetic have a $9 billion US defence contract. There is also another institution of this unholy trio. Who's heard of the Pirbright Institute? The Pirbright Institute in Surrey is responsible for foot and mouth. They also work at Porton Down. It's started by Sir Lord Pirbright, Edward de Worm Rothschild, linked with Cecil Rhodes and the Round Table and the Pilgrim Society. Does anybody know who those people are? We're starting to paint a picture, guys, yeah? It's not just a private company. Pirbright Institute owns 200-acre site with Kinetic with a satellite defence system and an underground base. Now, Pirbright have the patent to a coronavirus. Who knows how many patents for coronavirus? It's in between 60 and 70. The various different strains, there are 60 to 70 patents. Pirbright has the main patent on coronavirus. Guess who granted the patent? Any guesses? It was Serco, because they won the patent of this. Painting a picture yet, guys? Lord Pirbright Rothschild, who started the Pirbright Institute, was a spiritual mentor of Cecil Rhodes, Alfred Milner, the Pilgrim Society, DERA, which is the Defence Evaluation and Research. This is the military-industrial complex. We're talking about the military-industrial complex. They're the progenitors of MI5, MI6 and GCHQ. It all came from the Pilgrim Society and this group of institutions. Right. They also funded eugenics. Does anybody know what eugenics is? It's racial selected science. Along with the Rockefeller Foundation, the Pirbright Institute and the Round Table Society are involved in funding Nazi experiments. After the Nuremberg trials, they continued to fund it. They also created the idea of concentration camps in the Boer War. So we have the theme of concentration camps, eugenics, vaccines and defence companies, all involved in this unholy trio of track and trace. Enter the Gates Foundation, our great friends Bill and Melinda Gates. Does anybody know how many shares they have in Serco and their particular avenue of private prisons? 200,000 shares, worth about $20 million. Pirbright, guess where it's got a massive office and it works with the Viral Institute, Wuhan. Surprise, surprise. Now, although Serco is owned by the Crown and the Golden Share, does anybody know who the CEO of Serco is? Sir Rupert Soames. With his brother Sir Nicholas Soames, does anybody know who their grandfather is? Winston Churchill. 5 points for the man over there. Nicholas Soames, Rupert's brother, is best friends, literally best friends, famously with Mr. Prince Charles, Mr. Captain Reset. And, yeah, we all know. Famously, Nicholas Soames warned Princess Diana 6 months before her death to stop investigating landmines. Do you know why? Because he's the CEO of Aegis, one of the biggest military-industrial contractors, which is also involved in landmines. In Australia, they have a sorry, I'll skip that. Okay, so, right, I'm now going to go down a bit of a further rabbit hole. Nicholas Soames is best friends with Prince Charles, so by default, guess who he's pictured with many times and also good friends with? Jimmy Savile. Oh, God. His brother Rupert Soames, the CEO of Serco. Guess whose flight log he's on with his wife Millie? Jeffrey Epstein is intrinsically linked with some of these military-industrial complexes through Lockheed Martin. Okay, so this little island of debauchery is actually linked intrinsically with the military-industrial program, with defence contractors. It gets so deep, even I was totally blown away by what I found over last weekend. So basically, the man that is the CEO of Serco, owned by the Crown, is going to administer a system. But when you sign your permissions to the app, now, you know, when we have apps, everyone is so scared about the permissions for Snapchat. Oh my God, what's it going to do? What's this flashlight going to do? Can you imagine when you press I accept on the test and trace app? It comes from Serco, the biggest military-industrial contractor in the world. Can you imagine what the small print says in that app? I can tell you now that it's not probably, I've seen the research, it's the biggest backdoor into your phone that you can imagine. That's one thing. You're also entering into a contract where you can get a notification at any time for any reason because you've been near someone that allegedly had a test that's totally inaccurate for coronavirus, and you have to go home right now and you get a £1,000 fine. Who's going to be administering it? Serco, the people that administer the adult tax for prisoners, the people that administer mobile prisons, nuclear defence, blood banks. Is this the kind of people that we want to be entering a contract into? And they're going to be able to say to us and dictate to us what we can and can't do. Does anybody want to enter into that contract? Has a single person here downloaded that track and trace app? Good. I've got some bad news for you. I've got lots of people that contact me from various different sources, different places. I was contacted last week by a young lad who was not downloading the app. He showed me a screenshot of his Google settings. He's got COVID-19 turned off and he's still got a notification. He knew his name and he said, you've been near an infected person, you have to isolate. And I informed him that's a risk of a £1,000 fine. He said he'd leave his phone at home. Has anyone researched the Chinese credit system? Yes. Has anybody researched what's happening in the Xinjiang province in Western China? They're using a social credit system linked in with a COVID-19 app that uses a QR code. It is red, yellow or green. Maybe, no or yes, which dictates your entire life. That's now been integrated with the Chinese credit system, and in one province it's used to decide who goes to the internment camps, or the re-education camps as they're called. The BBC admits they have 1 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps that are put there digitally. Now, in Xinjiang, they're not allowed Facebook. So they don't have photos uploaded, and it's not tagged. We do this willingly. We willingly give our facial recognition details to the beast. In Xinjiang, if you don't comply, they strap you down to a board and they forcibly scan you. And once you're scanned to the facial recognition, you don't even need the app, you don't need the QR code, it's your face, a digital patch. And when it's scanned, it says trustworthy, untrustworthy, or maybe. And if you're untrustworthy, you've already got one foot in the internment camp. Is this surprising to anybody here, or did you guys already aware of quite how bad this is? Because unfortunately, most of these poor bastards walking up and down here, some of them think we're completely insane. Yeah. Some of them think we're just nutters that have watched one YouTube video and come to these crazy conclusions. Well, I urge everyone to go to the to listen in or to watch the whistleblower thing tonight. I'm looking to get whistleblowers on my channel. My channel is called Double LMC, that's my name, it's my artist name, and the show is called Rise Above. So, for everyone that's tuned in, thank you very much. For everyone that's sharing what I'm trying to put out, please do, because things are getting so close. The World Economic Forum has now said that the Great Reset happens in January 2021. Straight from the words of Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum. It's talked about by Prince Charles, it's talked about by David Attenborough every day this week in the mainstream media. It's coming. Secure your assets, batten down your hatches, make networks of like-minded people, and prepare for the storm. Guys, thank you very much. Rise above.